Tuesday, the 27th of October. Welcome all my panelists to today's edition of Frontier Opening Bell. Uche Namini is the managing partner at BlueFX Nigeria. Ayodeji Ebo, who is senior economist, head of research and strategy at Greenwich Merchant Bank. And of course, Ali Kansachu, the CEO and founder at Rich Frontiers Management in Nairobi. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the show.
Thank you, boss.
Great to have you. Thank you so much. As we wrap up the month of October, we appreciate your time here on the program. Let's look at the Pan-African markets. But of course, we all knew yesterday was not a particularly a sweet day for the global stock market. So a bit of frontier African markets also took a bit of a beating. And you can see most of the markets we cover on a daily basis in the negative territory. The Nigerian market sidestepped that by 0.28% to start the brand new week, largely on the back of banks reporting, Stanbic IBTC reporting its 9-month numbers, posting earnings per share 580 kobo for the period. There are a whole lot of other earnings coming through from the Nigeria space, including mergers and acquisitions being announced by two of the country's largest listed paint and building materials maker, CAP PLC, and Portland Paints PLC. That's one big news, one big merger in the industrial goods sector for the Nigerian space. We all look forward to this happening on before the end of the year or early in the new year as well. So let's check in with the East African corridor, where the elections tomorrow in Tanzania is getting everyone's attention. But it was also good news that we can have a bit of a rock and roll on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I'm sure Ali will be interested. We're going to get invited when Homeboyz Entertainment gets listed by introduction. We don't mind flying into Nairobi and have a party that day, having the first entertainment company listed on the Nairobi bourse. That will be a very big one. The Capital Market Authority in Kenya also cleared Pepperstone, a non-bank FX trading service provider, to operate in Kenya. Pepperstone operates in a number of developed markets around the world, including the United States. Cooperative Banks, it says, is focused on Kenya, but expansion into other East African markets will be on hold. This is different from Equity Bank, by the way, which is aggressively pursuing Central Eastern Africa consolidation. Kenya Power could get 2 billion shillings fine. What's the problem? Perhaps Ali will shed some light on this unclaimed asset, whatever that is. And Tanzania's September inflation softened to 3.1% just before Magufuli and his rivals go into the polls in the next 24 hours. Ali, should we start with the entertainment? Should we have a party right now for the Homeboyz?
Homeboyz Entertainment, very successful radio station, multimedia business, and I think that will be a very positive shot in the arm for the Nairobi Securities Exchange. We've been very short of listings for quite a while, and although this will be an introduction via listing and not an IPO, I think it is a positive step, and the NSC will be excited by that diversification into payment and media, which is such a big component of the economy, not as big as yours in Nigeria, but growing. To go to Tanzania next, we got the election tomorrow. We already have votes being cast today. We've had Zanzibar 3 deaths and the arrest of the Zanzibari ACT Wazalendo leader. So there is quite a lot of friction at the moment there. Everyone will be watching and waiting to see how that unfolds tomorrow. Tanzania September inflation, very benign, 3.1%, as you said in your headline. That's all about food. Tanzania is a big agri-economy, and that's keeping a lid on inflation. Pepperstone, non-bank FX services. This is the expansion of allowing people to trade foreign exchange as long as they trade through licensed brokers at the Capital Markets Authority. Pepperstone is probably joining 2 others who are already offering those services. Co-op Bank, which recently announced they were going to bring in McKinsey to have a look at their loan book. and actually of the tier 1 banks were the ones who provisioned the least, but have a very interesting customer base, largely captive. That is, of course, the cooperative societies and SACCOs. But this is an interesting statement. It's telling them they're looking to consolidate in their home market before looking further afield. And as you mentioned, that's against the grain. We've seen Equity Bank expand big time into the DR Congo. And we've seen most banks look to be in all the East African countries. So that was, I think, interesting from that point of view. Kenya Power, there are tremendous troubles with Kenya Power at the moment. Everyone's up in arms about their bills last month, which went up about 200% month on month, and that's from personal experience. So, you know, there is unhappiness with them.
Don't take it personal, Ali.
No, Kenya owed money as well. The balance sheet needs restructuring, needs more capital. And what they've done here at Kenya Power is basically, it's a unique situation, I think, in most of Africa, where they've got more power than they can sell. You know, with all the various onboarding of power, we've got too much power sitting on the grid, and we're not able to sell it, and that's why they're struggling at the moment in part.
Interesting. Okay, let me ask Uchenna to comment a little bit as we begin to see more non-broker, non-bank FX traders, with all the talk about getting more cryptocurrency trading in by central banks. The central bank governor in Kenya, Njoroge, a few days ago, late last week, was talking about consultations ongoing to allow digital currency in the Kenya market. Uche?
Right, earlier on, in one of your sessions, you talked about what is happening, how central banks sort of evolve in a number of banks have started looking into different research in that regard. I'm not exactly sure. I think the Swiss National Bank has already have some sort of incorporation to the cryptocurrency side of it. So I expect the central bank from the emerging markets to follow suit. But something is very, very important here, also, and that is the ability to continue to reduce interest rate even into the negative territory. And that's why we have seen central banks sort of delve into a sort of digital currency in the way whereby there's this control when it comes to the fiscal thing and also the monetary activity. So you are seeing the central bank is to position themselves whereby all this the money in a holistic manner, even from a physical point of view, making sure some sort of level of digital currency. So I think that's basically what we're trying to do with this adoption and all the digital currency is to give them more leeway to play around with interest rate and give them more accommodative slightly style when it comes to
Okay. Uche, I think your thoughts around digital currencies and where we go from here for central banks is an interesting scenario that everyone in the marketplace will be watching very closely. But let's delve into the Nigeria. Let's dive into the Nigerian market. Ayode Jebo will have a lot to talk about there. The committee around the CACOVID, which is the coalition against COVID. There's so much problem relating to the warehouses that's been looted with those CACOVID or palliatives. Now, yesterday evening, the committee issued a 4-page, 13-paragraph statement saying that very soon KPMG Professional Services will publish a report of all the donations, the spendings for food and medicals and what have you, but expressed great displeasure that some Nigerians, hundreds and several hundreds all over the country, in a number of places across country, are looting some of these materials which were received late in June to August and being prepared for distribution to those who are the needy and the vulnerables within the Nigerian space. But on Market Street, MTN Nigeria is giving us the name of the new CEO, but it won't be sitting on that chair until March 2021. Carl Toriola is the new CEO designate. CAP PLC and Portland Paints are announcing an M&A pending regulatory approvals, but the emerging company will be CAP PLC. CAP PLC is offering 2 naira 90 kobo per share of Portland Paints, or if the shareholders disagree, you can take 1 new shares fully paid up in CAP PLC for 8 existing shares you hold in Portland Paints. One big story from the industrial goods sector, Stanbic IBTC was a big story, earnings per share 5 naira 80 kobo per share. In Togo, Aura Group third quarter net income down 44% within the period, 5.09 billion CFA francs. And NCIA, which is another bank in Cote d'Ivoire, is raising its share capital to 24.73 billion CFA francs. Ayodeji, let's can we talk about this merger between CAP PLC and Portland Paints? That's one big story I'm interested in, really.
Okay, thanks. I think why the market is excited regarding at least the announcement of a merger and acquisition, because it's been a while received such interesting news in the market, and now specifically within the industrial goods space. And looking at CAP is the major leader within the paint and coating industry, and with this merger with Portland Paints, also it broadens their range of products across both from the premium and decorative segment to the mid-level. Also now looking at the industrial goods space, the industrial coating space rather. So I think it's positive even for the shareholders, because luckily both companies are quoted on the Nigeria Stock Exchange. For Portland Paints has been trading around 2 naira 5 kobo for throughout this year. And with CAP, when you look at the historical performance of CAP, their performance has always been positive, and the dividend has always also been very consistent. They have high dividend yield. So the company what they've done now is to give investors the option. So either you take your cash of 2 naira 90 kobo, or you also convert your existing Portland Paints shares. For every 8 holdings in Portland Paints, you get 1 CAP shares. Yes, that may look like it's at a discount when you look at the current price of CAP at 18 naira 50 kobo. But when you look at also the potential, looking at the industry, based on estimates, it's been estimated that in the industry within the next 5 years will be growing at a compound annual growth rate of about 5%, and that's they're estimating about $377 million worth of business activity within that space. So we believe that there's potential for the industry, even as government continues to also adopt the low-cost housing program. Then there will also be the demand. There will also be that demand for their product. So it's an interesting news for the industry. We're hoping to see more mergers and acquisition because part of what it does is you will see that we're hoping to see that synergy effects. There will be cost sharing. There will be also they will have more capacity to penetrate through the market. And now with ranges of products, and based on what the management have said, they are trying to look across not just Nigeria, also to West African and African countries. So I think this is a positive one for shareholders of both companies.
Okay, so for the banks, just about 30 seconds quickly, the Stanbic IBTC, do you think that's a very positive curtain raiser for other banks that were expecting to report as we end the month and step into November?
You are very right, and that also sends a major positive signal to the market, and it's good to start on that positive note within that sector. For you look at their result, we know for Stanbic, their subsidiaries have been supporting their growth. They control the PFA industry, even the asset management industry, and that has been supporting their growth. And with the yield environment that we've seen has moved in their favor, And we can see that with the non-interest income they've been able to book also from trading, and that has been positive for them. We believe that they will continue to leverage on that. But if you also look at we saw that spike in impairment charges, which we know we'll see that across most of the banks, especially for them. The oil and gas sector was the major sector that impacted on their impairment charges. But by and large, it's positive for the industry. Where optimistic and bullish on the banking industry, looking at them from a dividend yield perspective. And despite the COVID-19 impact or even the civil unrest, because most of them operate online, activities have been sustained, and we believe that for investors, it's time for them to acquire more banking stocks.
Interesting, Ayodeji. Thank you so much. Drilling down the Nigerian market for us. In Southern Africa, it's a very busy week between South Africa and Zambia. Of course, the wranglings between the bondholders is one story still catching inflation, but we're catching everyone's attention. We're expecting October inflation data by the end of the week or thereabout. For South Africa, the new budget from Tito Mboweni is still on the radar. We don't have that yet. It's going to be busy on the economic data side for money supply, producer price inflation, credit supply to the market. Eskom says, well, now we're going to have these annual results on October the 30th. That's by weekend. Okay, no, just hold your breath, everyone. We don't know what's going to be in the books for Eskom. I'm sure Ali's looking at that. Let's just hold our breath and wait for these numbers to come out. And Zimbabwe seems to be pulling a whole lot of hat trick. When you look at revenue collection, 57 billion Zimbabwean dollars against 44.8 billion in tax. That's very surprising for a country that everyone thought is under the water.
Yes, so obviously Eskom, it's very difficult to predict what those annual results are going to look like. They're delayed for 3 months. I'm not going to try, but it's going to be a significant market mover because of the challenges that it's faced. Of course, this week we also have Tito Mboweni presenting tomorrow a very keenly awaited budget. The issue around that, there's been talk of a wealth tax. I think, that will be a very difficult tax to impose. So, there are lots of variables with that as well. Interestingly, the Rand has been firming of late in anticipation of this budget. So let's see what transpires from that. Zambia, which you were talking about, we have the situation where they've got less than 30 days in order to make that coupon. It's highly unlikely they will. And you have this very big standoff between international bondholders, essentially in China, who are the main creditors to Zambia. I think Zambia is going to be a test case for how other situations on the African continent will be dealt with. The difference here is we've had enormous lending out of China, which was something that wasn't there 10, 20 years ago. And therefore, when you were restructuring sovereigns, you were dealing pretty much with the Paris Club, with the IMF, whereas here now you've got another big player, which is China, and it's proving very difficult to reconcile these various parties. And I think that's the challenge at the moment. And finally, yes, Zimbabwe, Mutili Cube has been quite bullish of late, and one can understand why. That's a pretty significant increase in revenue collection at a time when I can't think of any country in the world which has increased its revenue. So congratulations to Mutili, and no wonder bullish in Harare.
I know. Just say congratulations. But it seems to be Zimbabwe wants to become an outlier, as the case may be. As you see, very troubling numbers and situation in South Africa, and then suddenly you find Zimbabwean dollar stabilizing and all of that. Perhaps this is real. We just can't tell yet. But let's just give it some time and see the trend. Which I'm sure you set your calendar and your stopwatch for the 3rd of October, for November US elections. What's happening at the currency space ahead of that? It looks like the markets are rolling. We don't have any stimulus. But it's going to be after the election. So we don't know. Whoever wins will likely come up with its own version of the stimulus.
I think the adjournment by the Republican majority leader, the Senate majority leader, Michelle, basically has just added a fresh volatility risk into the November election. I think that is going to be highlighting that they are not exactly sure. I think that's a subtle highlighting that they are not, or indication rather, that they are not exactly sure what the outcome would look like. And a lot of funds to hold have been put up, is sort of indicating that Biden might actually take on the presidential seat. The market is having to, should I say, be cautious and to react accordingly to what this new paradigm may be like, and coupled with the fact that we the possibility that top Western countries are actually going to another threat, are going to another recession. We are looking at it, should I say, consensual lockdown. We're seeing France, Italy, and Spain looking to go impose another lockdown into the end of the month, and that literally is telling market participants that currently, it seems everything that been priced into the market is entirely been wrong. The optimism is being eroded with the fact that there is now a confirmed second wave of coronavirus infection. And we're also seeing that in the US, we're seeing that in the UK. And if we get that, so we are going back. This might just be a replication of another February or March meltdown in the market. And that's basically what market participants are trying to juggle at the moment. Just the risk surrounding the global market and dynamics and asset prices.
Oh, that's a big one. But again, when you look, this is one big story. Everyone keeping one permanent eye on before the elections. Ayodeji, give us 1 minute very quickly on the news yesterday evening that the CACOVID says there will be an audited report of the donations into these COVID-19 palliatives, listing all the medical equipment and the funds, what were purchased and all of that, what is left in the books or in the kitty or in the purse and all of that. Is this a welcome development for analysts and those who are watching developments very closely?
Yes, I think it's a welcome development, and I feel government should also they should always adopt this. They shouldn't wait until some issues come up, because if you look at the events that have happened in the last few days, been a lot of distrust, and even for most Nigerians are wondering why are they keeping these products. COVID is almost over, businesses have resumed, and you still have them in the warehouses. So yes, not in support of looting, not in support of taking those products, but you also want to just understand why those products are still in the warehouse in October when things have really improved. So it's a welcome development. We'll be expecting to see that detailed analysis, and I feel that government should also try to engage some of these top four to help them create some form of accountability and transparency. We saw what they did, how they audited an MPC, because it also builds trust. So even for some of the programs, social intervention funds that have been done, there can be an audit. Even if it's not performing well, people are not refunding, but we also just know the true status of the situation of things, how it's impacting, how many people have received it, and that would gradually we may begin to build some trust in government.
I totally agree with you, Ayodeji, on that. But let's touch on North Africa as we wrap up the show this Tuesday. Etisalat, it says its revenue 18% in 4.6 billion Egyptian pounds in third quarter. Well, the telcos are the ones making the money right now. Libya is pumping fast and furious into the oil market, 760 thereabouts, 1,000 barrels per day, high on 1 million barrels per day. British Petroleum in next door, Egypt, is starting its gas production and offshore field. It looks like North Africa is where most of the actions are taking place right now. Everybody's stomping in there looking for making good business. Ali, I'm sure this is a very interesting development. It looks like the North is taking the shine of most of the other regions on the continent.
Yes, I mean, you've had a degree of outperformance, in particular in Egypt, in terms of GDP growth. But I think if I could just talk briefly about the Libyan situation, this is an additional 680,000 barrels per day and looking to ramp it up to 1 million at a time when we've also got the other situation, which is this ramping higher of the COVID problem. So, you know, it's become very problematical, I think, for the oil market. You know, the OPEC Plus can control the supply side situation, but it's the demand side which has come to the fore again. And, you know, the question is, at the moment, people are talking about lockdown light. But if these numbers continue to climb, we're going to see a more aggressive lockdown in the Western world and a slide in oil demand. So we've got to keep an eye, I think, on Libya in the overall context of this new surge in COVID cases. Etisalat, you were talking about, look, these are the salad days for telecom companies. And, you know, we're all using our phone and mobile data and WhatsApp and all of that, and basically really most telcos are reporting significantly better numbers and are in a sweet spot as far as I can see.
Yes, a very sweet time for the telecoms. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being on the show today. Aide Jiabo, thank you so much from Greenwich Merchant Bank. Alikan Sachu in Nairobi, Rich Frontiers Management, thank you so much. And of course, Uche Namin is the managing partner and global strategist at BlueFX Nigeria. Have a great day, everyone, and see you again tomorrow, Wednesday. I am Bosun Amofaye. I'll see you next time.